If you're curious to hear a little music from our guest Carla Lucero, who we spoke to in our most recent episode, check out E4TT's annual concert of music by women and non-binary composers, Midnight Serenades, on January 25th. Welcome to For Good Measure, an interview series celebrating diverse composers and other creative artists, sponsored by a grant from the California Arts Council. I'm Nanette McGuinness, Artistic Executive Director of Ensemble for these times. In this week's episode, we continue our conversation with Elinor Armer, who we spoke to in January 2021. One of the things that I thought might be interesting to those who are tuning in today is if you would talk about your compositional process.
My process, at least in terms of, I'll talk about setting poetry, because that's quite a specific process, not necessarily the same as my process with, pieces that do not have words. I very much want to honor the poet and find the poet's voice. So I always start with setting the words. I don't generally, go to the piano and poke around for chords or anything of that sort. In fact, I usually take the book that has the poem in it and write all over the poor damn book. I have mutilated and marred many a poetry book just by doing this. I then sometimes also do what I tell my students to do, which is to copy the poem out triple space, on a piece of paper where they can then mess with it. And before they write a note, write on that piece of paper, or nowadays I suppose they can do it, at the computer, but somehow underline the important words, put bar lines before syllables that you think should be downbeats, sketch in little rhythmic motives that some of the words suggest, decide in larger terms, A section, B section, that kind of thing. And the poetry, don't mess with it. I mean, iambic pentameter, it can only be pulled this way or that. It's not taffy. You have to. There's a reason that poets use certain rhythms and meters, and you want to try to honor those. I do, however, sometimes have the musical phrase set an entire sentence or an entire clause, even if it stops short of a line ending or goes beyond a line ending, because I think that helps convey the meaning when the poem is heard. In other words, it's kind of parsed according to actual sentences and clauses rather than line endings. Because I think the last thing I want to do in setting a poem is to just be sing-songy. I don't want the poem to set me. And then at that point, having analyzed the poem and heard it in my mind a number of times, I then start sketching, but even then, the vocal line tends to come first. But I'm a harmonic fool. I'm just so crazy about harmony. That's been my curse and blessing all my life. Then I can't resist, of course, starting to graze at the keyboard and find sonorities that will suit. But it's very important, I think, to have the large rhythm and the small rhythms of the vocal line before you have anything else. sometimes I then, having, found accompanimental material or piano material that helps the imagery and also serves the vocal line, I then, adapt it to the rhythmic needs and try to keep it, on the one hand, out of the way of the singer, but on the other hand, supportive of the singer. And in fact, occasionally I am at pains to have the piano part prepare the singer with a pitch that she's going to have to come in on. I hope I did that enough for you. It's hell for singers to have to just find something out of thin air.
Yours was very easy to learn. So you did exactly what you were hoping. I've worked on some pieces where I really had to struggle to find pitches in the learning stage, and yours wasn't like that at all.
That's good. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to For Good Measure, and a special thank you to our guest, Elinor Armer, for joining us today. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to our podcast by clicking on the subscribe button, and support us by sharing it with your friends, posting about it on social media, and leaving us a rating and a review. To learn more about E4TT, our concert season online and in the Bay Area, or to make a tax-deductible donation, please visit us at www.e4tt.org. This podcast is made possible in part by a grant from the California Arts Council and generous donors like you. For Good Measure is produced by Nanette McGuinness and Ensemble for These Times and designed by Brennan Stokes, with special thanks to audio engineer extraordinaire Stephanie Neumann. Remember to keep supporting equity in the arts and tune in next week for Good Measure.